Hey everyone, and welcome back to Podcast Name. Have you ever had an unexpected household emergency that left you feeling stressed and unsure of what to do? Whether it's a leaking pipe, a power outage, or something going wrong in your rental, these issues can be incredibly overwhelming when they happen out of the blue.
That's right, Adam. Household emergencies don't come with a warning, and they often require quick action and clear communication to avoid making things worse. But don't worry. Today we're here to guide you through what to do in those moments of panic. We'll talk about how to handle emergency situations with plumbers, electricians, and even landlords.
Exactly. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly who to call, what to say, and what to expect when something goes wrong in your home. Whether you're dealing with a burst pipe, an electrical malfunction, or something in your rental property, we've got you covered.
So, if you want to feel more confident and prepared the next time disaster strikes at home, keep listening. Let's dive in.
All right, let's kick things off by talking about the different types of household emergencies you might face. These are the kinds of problems that can show up out of nowhere, usually at the worst possible time, and they require immediate attention.
Exactly. 1 minute everything's fine, and the next minute, bam, you're dealing with a disaster. The thing is, these emergencies can range from a small inconvenience to a major crisis, and knowing what category your problem falls into can help you decide how to react and who to call.
Let's start with one of the most common culprits, plumbing issues. You know, the classic dripping faucet, leaky pipes, and toilet problems that can turn into floods if left unchecked.
Ugh, nothing quite ruins your day like stepping into a puddle in the kitchen or bathroom. Whether it's a slow drain, a burst pipe, or worse, flooding, plumbing issues are the ones that often require urgent attention. Imagine waking up to find your bathroom's completely flooded after a pipe burst overnight. That's the kind of emergency you definitely don't want to delay.
And here's the kicker. Water doesn't wait. It just keeps spreading. If you notice water pooling anywhere, you've got to stop it at the source. But the real question is, do you call a plumber or attempt to handle it yourself? And that's where understanding the severity of the issue comes into play.
Exactly. A little drip might just need a quick fix, but a full-blown burst pipe? That's when you need to shut off your water and call in the pros immediately. The key is recognizing the signs early and acting fast before the problem escalates.
Now, speaking of escalating problems, let's talk about electrical issues. Picture this. You walk into your house, flip the switch, and nothing. Your power is out, or worse, you're dealing with electrical sparks, frayed wires, or a burning smell coming from your outlets. Those are red flags you can't ignore.
And this is where things get really scary. Electrical problems are not something you want to take lightly. A faulty wiring issue or a short circuit could not only leave you in the dark, but could also pose a serious fire risk. If you're ever unsure, the best advice is to call an electrician right away.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Sometimes the issue might not be your electrical system at all. It could be something as simple as a blown fuse or a tripped circuit breaker. So, understanding what's going on and where to look first can save you time, money, and avoid unnecessary panic.
And of course, there's the added factor of understanding how bad the problem is. Maybe your entire home has lost power, or maybe it's just one room. The more details you can give when you call an electrician, the better.
Now, let's talk about a more complex situation that's a bit more nuanced, issues in a rental property. For renters, the game changes because your landlord is the one you need to call if something major goes wrong.
Right, Adam. When you're renting, you don't have the immediate responsibility to fix everything yourself. But it's important to know what qualifies as an emergency that your landlord must take care of, and what you're expected to handle.
For example, if there's a water leak or a busted furnace, it's absolutely the landlord's responsibility to fix it. But what if it's something like a broken appliance, or something more cosmetic?
That's where it gets tricky. If it's something that affects your safety, like a faulty smoke detector or a gas leak, you need to call the landlord immediately. But if it's more minor, like a broken fridge or a leaky faucet, you still need to inform them, but it might not be as urgent.
The key takeaway here is understanding the difference between issues that require immediate attention and those that can be dealt with in a more relaxed time frame. For major emergencies, things that could compromise your safety or health, you can't afford to wait. For less critical problems, you might have a bit of time, but keep the lines of communication open with your landlord.
And don't forget, sometimes what seems like a minor issue can quickly spiral into something worse. A small leak could lead to water damage, which could be a huge problem if left unattended.
That's why it's crucial to know when something's an emergency and to act quickly. Whether it's plumbing, electrical, or rental issues, recognizing the problem and acting fast can save you from bigger headaches down the line.
So, to sum it up, plumbing, electrical, and rental issues all have their own unique signs and severity levels. The goal is to act quickly, stay calm, and know who to call, and when to call them, so you can avoid making the situation worse.
Exactly. And when in doubt, don't hesitate to get a professional involved. The last thing you want is to wait too long and find yourself in a bigger mess than you started with. Welcome back, everyone. Now that we've talked about the different types of household emergencies, let's dive into the first professional you might need to call, your plumber. So, Sophia, what should someone do when they face a plumbing issue?
The first thing is don't panic. I know it's easier said than done, but taking a deep breath and assessing the situation can really help you avoid making hasty decisions that could make things worse. The key to dealing with a plumbing emergency is staying calm and knowing exactly what information to give the plumber when you call.
That's such a good point. And when it comes to plumbing, timing is everything. The longer you wait, the more potential damage you could face, especially if water's involved. So, let's break it down. When should someone call a plumber immediately, and when can they hold off for a little while?
Great question. You should call a plumber immediately if you notice things like water leaking from a pipe, a toilet that's backed up and won't flush, or if your water heater stops working. These are all signs that you could be dealing with a more severe issue that needs professional attention.
Exactly. But there are also things you can manage temporarily before the plumber arrives. For example, if it's a minor clog, you might be able to clear it with a plunger or a simple drain cleaner. But once the water starts pooling, or if the issue is beyond a simple fix, don't wait. Call the plumber.
Absolutely. And one of the first things you should do before making the call is turn off the water supply. If you're dealing with a burst pipe or a serious leak, you don't want the water to keep flowing and cause more damage. Know where your main water shutoff valve is and turn it off right away.
Great advice. Now, let's talk about the actual phone call. When you dial a plumber, it's important to provide them with all the details. This helps them understand the scope of the issue and prepare properly.
That's right. The more information you can give, the better. For example, tell them where the issue is located, whether it's in the kitchen, bathroom, or basement, and describe what's happening. Is it a slow leak? Is the toilet constantly running? How long has it been going on?
Exactly. The plumber will want to know if the water is running, if it's spreading, and whether you've tried any temporary fixes like shutting off the water or using a plunger. And if you know what's causing the issue, like a blocked drain or a broken pipe, share that information too. It's all about making sure they're fully prepared when they arrive.
And don't forget to ask about their availability. Plumbing emergencies aren't always convenient, so it's good to know when they can come out. Is it a 24-hour service? Can they send someone within the hour, or will it take a day or two?
Good point, because sometimes timing is critical, especially if the issue is causing water damage. If the plumber can't come immediately, you might need to take additional steps to minimize the damage until they do arrive, like using towels, buckets, or a wet vac to clear water.
That's right. And once the plumber arrives, Don't be shy about asking questions. You'll want to know what the issue is, how long it will take to fix, and how much it's going to cost. You might also want to ask if there's anything you can do to prevent this problem from happening again in the future.
Absolutely. Asking about prevention is key. For example, if the plumber fixes a clogged drain, ask them for advice on how to avoid future clogs. Maybe it's a matter of not putting grease down the sink or using drain guards to catch hair in the shower. The last thing you want is for the same issue to keep coming up.
Another important question is about the materials being used. Sometimes plumbers will need to replace parts or pipes, so it's a good idea to ask about the quality of the materials they'll be using. You don't want to end up with something that's going to break down again in a few months.
That's a great tip. And one thing people often forget to do is get an estimate before the work begins. While most plumbers will give you a rough estimate over the phone, it's good to get a written quote before they start the work. This ensures you're both on the same page and prevents any surprises when the bill arrives.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of cost, it's also smart to ask if there are any additional charges. For example, is there an emergency service fee if they're coming out after hours or on weekends? Knowing all this up front will help you avoid sticker shock when the job's done.
So true. You should always ask for transparency when it comes to pricing. A good plumber will be upfront about the cost, and you can make an informed decision about whether you want to move forward with the work.
All right. So let's recap everything you need to know when talking to a plumber. 1. Assess the situation. Stay calm and turn off the water supply if needed. 2. Give details. Let the plumber know where the issue is and what's happening. 3. Ask about availability. Find out how soon they can come and how urgent the problem is. 4. Ask the right questions. Cost, time to fix and prevention tips. 5. Get an estimate. Always ask for a written quote before work starts.
That's a great summary, Sophia. If you follow these steps, you'll be much better prepared to handle a plumbing emergency when it strikes. And of course, the most important thing is to stay calm and call for help right away. Welcome back. Now that we've covered how to handle plumbing emergencies and what to do when you call a plumber, let's shift gears a bit and talk about prevention. Because, as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Absolutely. The best way to deal with plumbing problems is to avoid them altogether. While you can't prevent every issue, there are a lot of simple things you can do to keep your plumbing in top shape and avoid costly repairs down the road.
Right. And it's not just about fixing things when they break, it's about taking steps every day to keep things running smoothly. So, let's start with the most common problem: clogged drains.
Ah yes, the dreaded clog. It's probably the most common plumbing issue, and most of us have dealt with it at some point. The good news is there are some easy habits you can adopt to prevent clogs from happening in the first place.
Let's talk about the kitchen first. A lot of people make the mistake of putting grease, oils, or large food particles down the sink. And guess what? Those things don't just magically disappear. They stick to the pipes and create blockages.
Exactly. Instead of pouring grease down the drain, always let it cool and then throw it in the trash. As for food, make sure you scrape your plates before washing them to avoid excess food entering the drain. And if you have a garbage disposal, make sure to use it properly. No fibrous foods like celery or potato peels.
Great tip. And of course, a good habit is to regularly clean your drain. You don't need to hire a professional every time. Just use a drain cleaner or pour some baking soda and vinegar down the drain to keep things flowing smoothly.
Exactly. A little preventative maintenance goes a long way. Moving to the bathroom, another big culprit of plumbing issues is hair. If you have long hair, you probably already know that it can clog the drain over time, especially in showers or bathtubs.
Yes. And those little hair catchers you can buy for the drain are lifesavers. You'll be amazed at how much hair they catch. And even if you don't have a hair catcher, it's good practice to give the drain a quick check every now and then.
And if you're having persistent issues with clogged drains, it might be a good idea to clean the drain trap or call a plumber for a deeper clean. This will prevent the buildup of soap scum and other debris that could cause more serious blockages.
Definitely. Now, what about your toilet? We all know the horror of a clogged toilet. Any advice on how to prevent that nightmare?
First and foremost, only toilet paper should go down the toilet. It might sound simple, but many people make the mistake of flushing things like wipes, paper towels, or even feminine hygiene products, thinking they're similar to toilet paper. But those can cause serious clogs.
Absolutely. And if you have kids, make sure they understand this rule too. It might seem harmless, but it can lead to major plumbing problems. It's also a good idea to check the water level in the toilet tank from time to time. If the water level's too high, it could overflow when you flush.
That's a great point, Adam. Now let's talk about another issue that's often overlooked: leaky faucets. A leaky faucet may seem minor, but over time, it can waste a lot of water and cause damage to your fixtures.
Yes, and a leaky faucet is often a sign that something isn't quite right inside the faucet valve or cartridge. If you notice a leak, don't just ignore it. Fixing a faucet is usually a quick and inexpensive fix compared to the long-term costs of water damage or even higher water bills.
Exactly. A simple valve replacement or a quick tightening of the faucet handle can stop a small drip from becoming a larger problem. Also, if you have older plumbing fixtures or pipes, it might be a good idea to replace them before they fail, especially if they're prone to corrosion.
That's a great tip, Sophia. The older your plumbing, the more likely it is to develop issues like leaks or even rust in the pipes. It's worth investing in replacements before they become emergencies. And that brings us to another area to focus on: water pressure.
Oh yes, water pressure. You might not think about it much, but if your water pressure is too high, it can put unnecessary stress on your pipes, leading to leaks or even burst pipes. You can buy a simple pressure gauge at your local hardware store to test your water pressure and make sure it's in the safe zone, usually between 40 to 60 psi.
If your pressure is too high, you might want to install a pressure-reducing valve to help keep things stable. It's a small investment that could prevent a major plumbing disaster later on.
Definitely. Now let's touch on one last preventative tip: winterizing your plumbing. If you live in a cold climate, frozen pipes can be a real problem. Make sure to insulate any exposed pipes in your home, especially those in the attic or basement. And if temperatures are dropping significantly, let your faucets drip overnight to prevent water from freezing in the pipes.
Great advice. Frozen pipes can burst, causing major water damage. So, taking the time to winterize your home can save you thousands in repairs.
So, to wrap things up, here's a quick recap of the best ways to prevent plumbing problems. 1. Kitchen drains. Avoid pouring grease and large food particles down the sink. 2. Bathroom drains. Use hair catchers and clean drains regularly. 3rd toilet. Only flush toilet paper and keep an eye on the water level. 4. Leaky faucets. Fix leaks immediately to avoid wasting water and money. 5. Pressure. Monitor your water pressure and adjust it if needed. 6. Winterizing. Protect your pipes from freezing temperatures in the winter.
If you incorporate these tips into your routine, you'll be much less likely to face a major plumbing emergency. And remember, a little prevention goes a long way when it comes to plumbing.
Exactly. Taking these simple steps will save you time, money, and stress in the long run.
All right, folks. We've talked about plumbing emergencies, but now let's shift gears to electrical issues. We've all been there. 1 minute everything's fine, and the next minute, poof, the lights go out, or you hear a strange buzzing sound. What should you do when your home's electrical system decides to act up?
Oh, Adam, electrical problems can be so stressful, especially when they happen out of nowhere. But don't panic. Just like with plumbing issues, staying calm and knowing what to do next can make all the difference. Today, we're going to walk you through what to do if you face an electrical emergency, from what could be causing it to how to talk to an electrician.
Sounds good, Sophia. So, let's start with the basics. What counts as an electrical emergency? When should you call an electrician right away?
Great question. First things first, if you smell something burning, see sparks, or notice any smoke, don't hesitate. Call an electrician immediately. Electrical issues can be dangerous, and it's always better to be safe.
Absolutely. And if your power goes out completely, whether in just one room or the whole house, this could be a sign of a bigger problem with your wiring or electrical panel. Don't ignore it, because it could lead to a fire or serious damage.
Yes, and if the power goes out in certain parts of your house, it might be a tripped breaker. You can check your circuit breaker panel first, and if you see a breaker flip to the off position, try flipping it back on. That could solve the problem right away.
But here's the thing. If you flip that breaker back on and it keeps tripping, that's a sign you need an electrician. It's not something you should keep resetting. A constantly tripping breaker could mean a short circuit or something much more serious that requires professional help.
Exactly, Adam. And if you're ever unsure about the cause, always call in an electrician. It's not worth risking your safety. But when you do call, it's important to be as detailed as possible about the issue. The more information you give the electrician, the better they'll be able to help.
That's right. When you call, let them know. Which areas of the house have lost power? Just one room or the whole house? If you've noticed any strange sounds like buzzing from outlets. If you've seen any smoke or smelled anything burning. If you've already checked the circuit breaker and what you found.
And don't forget to mention if any electrical appliances are involved, like a space heater, microwave, or refrigerator. These can sometimes cause circuits to overload. This helps the electrician understand the scope of the issue quickly.
Exactly. Now, when you're talking to the electrician, it's important to ask the right questions. This way, you'll know exactly what's going on and how to move forward.
Here are a few things you'll want to ask. What caused the issue? How long will it take to fix? How much will it cost? Will I need to turn off the power while you work?
These questions help you understand what's happening in your home and how much the repair might cost. It's always better to ask up front so you're not caught off guard by any surprises.
And if the electrician recommends upgrades or extra work, like rewiring parts of the house or adding more circuits, it's totally okay to ask why it's necessary. You want to make sure the work is something that will improve your home's safety and functionality in the long run.
Great point. For example, if your home's wiring is outdated, you might need to upgrade it to handle modern appliances. While this can be a larger investment, it can save you from future problems and potentially dangerous situations.
Absolutely. And once the work is done, always ask the electrician to test everything before they leave. You want to make sure everything's working correctly and safely before they head out the door.
So, let's quickly recap what to do when you face an electrical emergency. 1. Check the circuit breaker. If it's tripped, try flipping it back on, but don't reset it repeatedly if it keeps tripping. 2. Call the electrician. Be clear about what's happening and provide as much detail as you can. 3. Ask the right questions. Get an estimate. Ask about the cause and find out how long the repair will take. 4. Test everything. Make sure everything works and is safe before the electrician leaves.
Perfect summary, Adam. Remember, electrical issues can be serious, so it's always better to call a professional if you're unsure. Don't take any chances with your safety.
That's right, Sophia. And if you're ever in doubt, an electrician can help you figure out what's going on and make sure your home is safe. Welcome back, everyone. We've covered what to do when the lights go out, but now let's talk about how to keep your home safe in the long run. Electrical issues aren't always an emergency, but even small problems can lead to big risks if they're not addressed. So today, we're diving into some key electrical safety tips and how to prevent future issues in your home.
That's right, Adam. It's easy to overlook electrical safety in our everyday lives, But there are simple steps we can take to keep things running smoothly and, most importantly, safely. So let's start with the basics. How can we avoid creating electrical hazards at home?
Well, one of the biggest things to keep in mind is not overloading your circuits. We've all been guilty of plugging in one too many appliances into a single outlet, especially in the kitchen or living room. But doing so puts a lot of strain on your electrical system, and that can lead to overheating or even fires.
Absolutely. A good rule of thumb is to never plug too many devices into one outlet or extension cord. If you need more power outlets, consider having an electrician install additional outlets or circuits in high-traffic areas.
Speaking of extension cords, that leads us to another point. Don't use them as a permanent solution. Extension cords are meant for temporary use only, not to replace your home's electrical system. If you find yourself relying on extension cords regularly, that's a clear sign you need more outlets.
And make sure the extension cords you're using are rated for the power demands of the devices you're plugging into them. Overusing or using the wrong type of extension cord can also be dangerous. Always check the packaging for guidelines and ratings.
Another big one is to check your electrical appliances regularly for any signs of damage. If you notice frayed wires, exposed metal, or scorch marks, it's time to replace the appliance or cord. Continuing to use damaged cords can lead to electrical shocks or fires.
Absolutely, Adam. And always be cautious when using appliances near water. Water is an excellent conductor of electricity, and using electrical devices in wet conditions, like in the bathroom or near a pool, can be extremely dangerous. Always keep your devices dry and away from wet areas.
That's such an important point. And while we're on the subject of water, make sure you have GFCI outlets, ground fault circuit interrupters, installed in areas where water is likely to come into contact with electricity, like bathrooms, kitchens, or laundry rooms. These outlets are designed to shut off power if they detect a ground fault, preventing potential shocks.
Great point, Adam. If you don't already have GFCI outlets, consider having an electrician install them. It's a small investment that can greatly improve the safety of your home.
Another crucial safety tip is to always turn off the power before working on any electrical repairs or installations. If you're ever tempted to fix a light switch, install a new outlet, or do anything electrical around the house, make sure you cut the power at the breaker panel first. This may sound obvious, but accidents can happen if you're not careful.
Definitely. And if you're not comfortable doing electrical work, don't hesitate to call a professional. It's not worth taking risks when it comes to electricity. An electrician will have the knowledge and experience to get the job done safely.
And, as we mentioned in the previous segment, don't ignore warning signs. If a light flickers, an outlet feels warm, or you notice a burning smell, don't brush it off as no big deal. These are all signs that something could be wrong with your wiring or electrical system, and ignoring them could lead to serious problems.
Exactly, Adam. Being proactive about these small issues can save you from much bigger, more expensive problems down the road. Regularly inspecting your home's electrical system, especially in older homes, is key to preventing issues before they become emergencies.
That's a great tip. And if you're in an older home, it's especially important to have your electrical system evaluated by a professional. Outdated wiring, like knob and tube or aluminum wiring, can be a fire hazard and may need to be replaced.
Yes. And while we're talking about regular inspections, don't forget to check your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. These life-saving devices rely on electricity to function, so make sure they're working properly and have fresh batteries.
Absolutely. Safety first. And finally, one last piece of advice. Teach your kids about electrical safety. If you have children in the home, make sure they understand the dangers of playing with outlets or cords. Use outlet covers, and make sure they know that electricity should only be used under adult supervision.
Great advice, Adam. Electrical safety is something we should all be aware of, no matter our age. It's all about creating safe habits and being proactive.
So, to recap the top tips for electrical safety: 1. Avoid overloading outlets. Use extension cords sparingly and only for temporary purposes. 2. Inspect electrical cords and appliances regularly for signs of damage. 3. Install GFCI outlets in high-risk areas like kitchens, bathrooms, and laundry rooms. 4. Turn off the power before doing any electrical work. 5. Call a professional if you're unsure or uncomfortable with electrical repairs. 6. Stay alert for warning signs like flickering lights or warm outlets. 7. Teach your kids about electrical safety and use outlet covers if necessary.
And remember, electrical issues don't always happen suddenly. They often build up over time. So, taking these simple steps to keep your home safe can prevent bigger problems and make sure you're always ready in case of an emergency.
Exactly, Sophia. By staying proactive, you can avoid a lot of headaches and keep your home safe for years to come. Thanks for listening, and we hope these tips help you feel more confident about managing your home's electrical system. Welcome back to the podcast, folks. We've covered plumbing and electrical emergencies, but what happens when you're renting and something goes wrong in your home? Today, we're diving into how to handle rental property issues and how to effectively communicate with your landlord when things aren't working properly.
That's right, Adam. As tenants, it's easy to feel like we're powerless when things break down in a rental property. But knowing how to approach your landlord with issues can make all the difference in getting things fixed quickly and maintaining a good relationship with them.
Absolutely. So, let's start with the basics. When should you contact your landlord? What kinds of problems are your responsibility, and what's the landlord's responsibility to fix?
Good question. Generally speaking, landlords are responsible for maintaining the structural integrity of the property and ensuring that essential systems like plumbing, electricity, heating, and cooling are in good working order. If something major breaks, like the furnace or the plumbing, it's their responsibility to repair it.
Right. That's why it's so important to understand the difference between what you, as a tenant, are responsible for and what the landlord needs to handle. For example, small issues like changing light bulbs or replacing air filters are typically on you, but larger things like a broken dishwasher or a leaking roof fall under the landlord's duties.
Exactly. Now, let's say you notice a major issue, like the plumbing is acting up, the heating system isn't working, or there's an electrical problem. What's the best way to approach your landlord about it?
The first step is to document the problem. Take photos or videos of the issue and note any relevant details. For example, if you're dealing with a leak, take pictures of the water damage and note how long it's been happening. This gives you solid proof that something needs fixing and helps the landlord understand the urgency of the situation.
Definitely. Documentation is key. You don't want to be in a situation where you're arguing over whether something is broken or how bad the damage is. Having clear evidence can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Once you've got your documentation, the next step is to contact your landlord in writing. It's always better to send an email or a message via your rental portal so there's a record of the communication. Be clear and polite in your request. For example, you might say something like, "I've noticed a leak under the kitchen sink and it's getting worse. I've attached photos of the damage. Could you please arrange for repairs?"
Right, and in your message, be sure to include important details like when you first noticed the issue, how it's affecting you, and any steps you've already taken to try to resolve it. That helps the landlord get a clear picture of the situation.
Now, what if the landlord doesn't respond quickly or isn't being proactive about fixing the problem? What can you do then?
See, good question. If your landlord isn't responding in a timely manner or isn't addressing the issue, you can follow up politely but firmly. Send a second message or give them a call to remind them of the issue. It's also helpful to reference the original communication so they know this isn't the first time you've reached out.
And if that still doesn't work, it might be time to review your lease agreement. Many leases have specific timelines for repairs and maintenance requests. If the issue is something that seriously affects your living conditions, like no heat in the winter or a flooding issue, the landlord is typically required to fix it within a certain time frame. If they don't, you might have grounds to take further action.
Exactly. And if the situation is really bad, like if it's unsafe or causing significant damage to your property, you might want to escalate the situation. You can contact local tenant organizations or even seek legal advice to see what your rights are. It's always a good idea to know your legal rights as a tenant, especially when it comes to habitability issues.
That's a really good point. Many areas have tenant rights laws that protect renters from neglectful landlords. If you ever find yourself in a situation where your landlord is refusing to fix a major issue, these laws can help you know what your options are.
And don't forget about communication. Even if things get frustrating, try to keep things civil and respectful. Maintaining a positive relationship with your landlord is key, especially if you plan on staying in the property long term. And in some cases, a polite but firm request is all it takes to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. In many cases, landlords are reasonable people who just need a little reminder. If you approach them with respect and a clear understanding of the problem, they're more likely to help you out.
So, let's recap the main steps for handling rental property issues. 1. Document the problem. Take photos, write down details, and gather evidence. 2. Contact your landlord in writing. Be clear, polite, and provide all relevant information. 3. Follow up. If you don't get a response, reach out again. 4. Review your lease agreement. Know your rights and the landlord's responsibilities. 5. Know your legal rights. If the issue is serious and not being addressed, consider seeking legal advice.
And remember, folks, it's all about communication and documentation. If you stay calm, organized, and respectful, you'll have a much better chance of getting the repairs or fixes you need.
Exactly. By being proactive and knowing how to handle these issues, you can make sure your rental experience stays as smooth as possible.
So far, we've covered what to do when things break down in your home, from plumbing and electrical issues to communicating with your landlord. But today, we're shifting gears and diving into a topic that's often overlooked: the legal side of household emergencies.
That's right, Adam. When something goes wrong in your home, there's more to consider than just fixing the problem. Sometimes understanding your legal rights and responsibilities can make a big difference in how quickly you get things resolved. Whether you're a homeowner or a renter, knowing the law can protect you from further damage and ensure you don't get taken advantage of.
Absolutely. Let's start with homeowners. When an emergency occurs, like a plumbing leak, a fire, or a broken appliance, are there any legal steps homeowners should take, aside from fixing the issue?
Great question. As a homeowner, the first thing you want to do is check your homeowner's insurance policy. Most homeowners' insurance covers damage from things like fire, water leaks, and even some types of electrical problems, depending on the cause. Knowing what your insurance covers can help you decide what to do next.
Right. And if you're dealing with major damage, like a fire or flood, it's important to document everything. Take photos, make a list of the damaged items, and keep records of any emergency repairs you make. This will be crucial when filing a claim with your insurance company.
Exactly. If you don't document the damage properly, you could end up losing out on coverage or receiving a lower payout. Insurance companies are more likely to approve your claim if you can show clear, well-documented evidence of the damage.
Now let's talk about tenants. If you're renting and face an emergency situation, like a major plumbing issue or a malfunctioning heating system, what legal rights do you have to ensure your landlord fixes the problem quickly?
As a tenant, your rights can vary depending on where you live, but most states and cities have laws in place that require landlords to maintain the property in a habitable condition. This means that if something essential breaks, like heat, hot water, or plumbing, It's the landlord's responsibility to fix it. If they fail to do so, you have certain legal protections.
So if your landlord refuses or delays repairs, you can take action. In many places, you have the right to withhold rent until the problem is fixed, or you can even get the repairs done yourself and deduct the cost from your rent. But before you do anything, you should check your lease agreement and local tenant laws to make sure you're within your rights.
That's right. And if the issue is really serious, like a gas leak, a dangerous electrical issue, or mold that's making you sick, you may be able to break your lease early, or even take the landlord to small claims court if they fail to make necessary repairs. Again, it's all about knowing the laws in your area and having solid documentation of the problem.
Documentation is key here too. Keep a written record of all your communications with the landlord, whether it's emails, phone calls, or text messages. If you end up needing to take legal action, this paper trail will be invaluable in proving your case.
Absolutely. Now, what about situations where the issue was caused by something out of your control, like a storm or flood? What's the legal side of that?
For both homeowners and renters, if the damage was caused by something like a natural disaster, it typically falls under your insurance policy, again, assuming you have coverage for such events. But if the damage affects the habitability of your home, you should report it to your landlord or insurance company immediately and take steps to prevent further damage.
And in the case of renters, you should notify your landlord about the damage right away, even if it's caused by something external like weather. If the property becomes uninhabitable, you may have the right to break your lease or ask for compensation if you have to move out temporarily.
Exactly. And if the emergency isn't something covered by insurance or your landlord is being difficult about making repairs, you might want to consult with a lawyer who specializes in tenant rights or property law. Legal advice can give you clarity on how to move forward without risking any further issues.
Speaking of tenant rights, it's important to remember that you can't just withhold rent or stop paying for repairs unless it's legally justified. Always do your research first. And if you're unsure about what steps to take, a lawyer can help you avoid making a mistake that could lead to eviction or other legal issues.
Good advice, Sophia. Now, let's talk about a situation where homeowners or renters may face legal action, like if you cause damage to the property through negligence. Let's say you accidentally break a window or cause a water leak because of a mistake. What does the law say about that?
In cases of negligence, the tenant or homeowner could be responsible for the cost of repairs. If you're a renter and accidentally damage something, you may have to pay for the repair or replacement out of pocket, especially if it's outlined in your lease. However, if the damage is due to normal wear and tear, it's typically the landlord's responsibility.
And for homeowners, if you cause damage, it might not be covered by your insurance policy, especially if it's deemed avoidable. It's always a good idea to maintain your property well and follow safety guidelines to avoid this situation. If it happens, make sure to take responsibility and work with your insurance or the relevant parties to cover the costs.
Exactly. The best way to avoid legal trouble is to be proactive. Whether you're a homeowner or renter, regular maintenance, proper insurance, and clear communication can help prevent issues from escalating into bigger legal problems.
So, to recap, when dealing with household emergencies and the legal side of things: 1. Know your insurance coverage. Understand what's covered for homeowners and renters. 2. Document everything. Take photos, make lists, and keep records of all damage and communication. 3. Understand your legal rights. Familiarize yourself with local tenant laws and landlord responsibilities. 4. Consult legal help if necessary. When in doubt, get advice from a lawyer to ensure you're following the law. 5. Avoid negligence. Take care of your property to avoid legal liabilities.
That's right. Having a solid understanding of your rights and responsibilities can make handling household emergencies less stressful and help you get the repairs you need without unnecessary legal complications.
Well, Sophia, that wraps up our episode on household emergencies. Talking to a plumber, electrician, or landlord. It's been a really informative session, don't you think?
Absolutely, Adam. From handling plumbing issues to staying safe during electrical problems and even navigating rental challenges, we've covered a lot of ground. I hope our listeners feel more prepared now.
Same here. And remember, everyone, the key to managing these emergencies is staying calm, knowing who to call, and having the right information handy.
That's right. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with practical advice.
And hey, we'd love to hear from you. What tips have worked for you in dealing with household emergencies? Share your stories or questions in the comments, or reach out to us on social media.
Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, your home is your sanctuary, so let's keep it running smoothly.
Take care, everyone. See you in the next episode.